What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. We have a lot to discuss on today's episode. There's been some sweeps. There's been some epic battles in the two other series still going on actively in the playoffs. The NBA draft lottery has taken place, and funnily enough, the two teams that actually made positive moves at the trade deadline were rewarded with the top two picks. Obviously, got to get into that. Can the Knicks go all the way? Are we starting to take the Thunder for granted? We're going to get into all of it, but there's only one place to start. We all know that Chris here is a Chicago Bulls fan. They have come up with the number 4 pick. Chris, how you feeling?
Dude, you're talking to me now, 48 hours after it was on Mother's Day. It'll be a Mother's Day to remember. Sure, hope everyone had a great time with their families. Hope everyone enjoyed either their mothers of their kids, their own mothers. I couldn't help but be distracted by the most momentous event in the last decade for the Bulls, probably. Just an incredible lottery, and I loved the fact that they just snuck it right in at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. You know, it wasn't like anyone was expecting there to be any sort of rigging or any funny business going on. No one suspects that at all. That's not a Twitter thing at all. So there's no suspicions that the Bulls jumping up was rigged whatsoever. But man, I just want to start off by saying the amount of disappointments that we've had in the lottery for the last year, 10 years. Think about Luka. Think about the fact that we could have, in that Luka draft, jumped up to get Jaren Jackson Jr. We lost a coin flip. Didn't get up there in that year. We lost another coin flip in the Luka draft. We lost the coin flip for the Cooper Flag draft. People don't remember that. It's literally coin flip between the Mavs and the Bulls. They were tied at their respective positions, and everyone wants to say, "Oh, we could have had him." The Patrick Williams draft, that 4th pick that haunts us. All the number 7 picks, you never jumped up. We haven't jumped up since Derrick Rose in 2008, people. And here we are in the most stacked draft in recent memory. I mean, even looking back to last year, you've had so many influxes of talent recently. The top 4 is incredible. It's just such an injection of energy, such an injection of positive vibes for a franchise and a fan base that was just looking to a summer of, at least resetting and looking far into the future. To look this closely and be excited about a draft and actually be talking about the top of the list. I mean, I feel like every year I was very much excited about doing these deep dives on 7 through 15 and early second round, blah, blah, blah. But here we are. We're going to talk about some top 4 guys soon, and I'm very excited to do it, man.
If I was to ask you right now, who would you like with that number 4 pick?
Yeah, man, it's such a tough question. I'm sure I'm not alone in any of these fan bases. You kind of just stay up in the middle of the night and you're thinking well, who would I want? And that's such an awesome problem to have because all these guys are great. I'm sure we'll do a deep dive later on. If I had to give you an answer right now, it'll be different than the one I had yesterday. It'll be different than the one I had the day before that. If you go off just straight vibes of highlights, if you're a highlight guy, you just like to pull up, let me look at 15 minutes of highlights of each guy. I think there's 2 obvious answers. Anyone who just gets excited about athleticism and sheer, pure physical ability, I think you got to look at Caleb Wilson and be like, holy crap, that guy is going to be insane. And then now you got all these things with the combine coming through, the actual functional athleticism of these guys. You're like, oh, Cam Boozer is actually pretty quick. So it's very much a non-answer, but I think right now I'd have to be pretty happy if we walked away with Caleb Wilson. And I got to be pretty honest in thinking that, a lot of these lotteries, we've kind of been lulled into thinking about, oh, what's this guy going to be if he gets a jump shot? He's so athletic. He's just jumps off the page. But then you kind of miss the little nuances of scouting where you look at, all right, what's this guy's IQ? What's his proven track record? How much of a competitor is he? And I think it's hard not to look at Cam Boozer and be like, wow, that guy has won at every level. He's incredibly skilled. He's easily the most skilled player in several years, truly. He can do it all. But I think it'll just be whoever's left over, man. And there's no way Bulls are moving up. No one's moving into the top 4. It's just not going to happen. All these fake trades out there. It's none of these franchises are giving that up. It would have to take something insane. But any of these players who falls, you can argue that they're possibly franchise-changing players. They all have things that they could work on, but it seems like it's moving towards Caleb Wilson, a guy who looks like a lot of people are saying Kevin Garnett 2.0. That is an insane player comp. I'll take it just because like the fandom in me wants to be excited for a guy like that. Like let's give this kid a break. Let's let him be who he is. But dude, I mean his tape, the jumping ability is not just straight line drives. I mean the way that he has footwork and can play off 2 feet. I mean the spin dunk package he has is kind of insane. Like he's just off balance and can still just jump over people. A little bit different from some of the criticisms of Cam Boozer when he's faced a little bit of athleticism and physicality in the paint. But do you think you look at the defensive capability? I think I will advise a lot of people who are Caleb Wilson fans pay attention to the man defense. That's a little bit different from his weak side help, which just looks insane. Like the amount of blocks he has in the open court, playing weak side. If you let him roam, he's quite a rim protector at his position. But yeah, man, he's a freak. He'd be very, very fun to watch in a Bulls uniform.
Yeah, man, that the defensive versatility that he could potentially have would definitely excite me, and obviously the athleticism is honestly probably next to none in this class. That'd be super fun. And you kind of mentioned nobody being able to trade up, so you'd be very much against any potential OKC Godfather offer for that number 4 pick, right?
I think yeah, it's what could they offer, right? They got 3 in this draft, 1 lottery, a couple mid first rounders. Are you saying for the Bulls in particular, or just anyone in general?
I mean, I'll pose it to you for the Bulls, and then we can talk more broadly.
I think any team, including the Bulls, would look at the Thunder and be like, "That's cool. Send me Jalen Williams." Right? I think it would start there. And I want to talk with the Thunder at some point here, obviously, but with AJ Mitchell being so good, it's like, hey, you're gonna have to pay everyone eventually. Why don't you just make a move now? Do that. And I'd probably still say no. If you give me Jalen Williams, all your first round picks from this year, pick swaps in the future, sure you can have one of these top 4 guys. But I think it'll just be too steep of a price for anyone involved, and it's going to be really interesting to see like how the draft reform is going to change like how people are going to see future firsts. Are they going to be as valuable? A lot of people are predicting that there will be less trades. I don't know. I mean, it could be the opposite because the idea that there's flattened odds, you don't have to necessarily trade for um, specifically the worst team. Like it's kind of evens out the value of a lot of these first round picks. There could be more trades. So, not sure. I don't think in this year that would make sense. I don't think that happens.
Yeah, it's just obviously it's kind of the talk right now because OKC are eventually going to have to consolidate some of their assets. Like they're
Yeah.
drafting too much to be able to roster all these guys, and guys are coming through and they're having to pay all these guys, and it's just not going to be possible. So that's why that's kind of one of the big questions as we approach this draft class. Is this the time to make the move? Because it's also been pretty well documented that the next 2 draft classes are not expected to be the strongest either. They're actually being called that they're actually like to be very weak. So maybe this feels like the year that OKC looks to make that big splash with all the assets that they've gained. But it would take something phenomenal for anyone I think to drop out of the top 4. And like you'd really, really have to believe, and I think AJ Mitchell, if you're going to be willing to listen to any offers from OKC.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with a grain of salt because uh, I think it is easy to predict the big, super talented draft classes. Like this
Mm.
one was already heralded. Last year's was already heralded. They said the year before was bad, and it wasn't great in terms of uh, franchise changing talent. But you look at a guy like Stephon Castle, he's doing pretty good. You look like at a guy like Zach Edey, he's shown that he may be like a cornerstone for that franchise. They're talking about him being that kind of guy. Donovan Clingan looks like the guy for the future for the Blazers. Manas Buzelis, even though he's picked out of the top 10, he's a guy that's already being looked at as a cornerstone for the Bulls' future. Like they're gonna be guys. I think it's gonna be there's gonna be a bit of hesitancy to make moves this early on before we understand the dynamics of like what these trades are worth. Someone's going to set the market. So
Yeah.
who knows? So someone could set that market. We've had such a crazy time of multiple first rounders going for guys, which Knicks fans are very aware of. The cupboard is quite empty after the last few years of team building here. But I think on the cusp of a finals where we see absolute juggernauts arrive that are young and are going to be there for a while, I think a lot of teams are just going to want to kind of wait it out until teams like the Thunder, the Spurs, we even have the Celtics and Pacers in the East, let alone the Knicks. There's a lot of teams that are going to be up top for a while. I think a lot of teams are going to be patient. I don't know who's going to be super excited to be jettisoning assets before we even know what they're worth over the next 2 years.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Let's get into the rest of the lottery. The Washington Wizards, after many years of horrendous teams and losing, they finally grabbed that number one pick in what could be the most stacked class we've seen in a while, and it's almost like a testament to them. They've made some smart moves around the edges and made some big splashes. Got Trae Young and Anthony Davis for very, very cheap. So now they really just have that platform for a guy to come in and really kind of shake things up for them.
Yeah, and do you feel, based on what you've seen, do you feel pretty confident they're a lock for AJ?
I think so. It's really tough because there's something in the back of my head that tells me Peterson might end up being the better player.
Are you a Peterson guy? Who's your number one? You're the Wizards. You're on the clock. Like, do you have an easy pick, or are you kind of conflicted?
I think you're a little bit conflicted. I guess it kind of depends how much you believe Trae Young is your primary ball handler guard of the future. In a way, you should obviously be drafting for talent one way or the other. You're got the number one pick, but like AJ could fit in alongside Trae Young pretty easily. I think whether Peterson could fit in alongside Trae Young, maybe, but I wouldn't be as sure about that. So I know you're going to only draft for talent, but that kind of thought has to be in their head a little bit, especially if they're going to be willing to give Trae Young a big contract.
We're in the draft room. You're my GM. I'm your assistant GM. I just threw a cup of water in your face and told you to wake up. And Trae Young is not our point guard of the future. Just pick the best guy available. Who's your best guy available for you?
I think it's Peterson.
Wow. Okay. That's what makes this draft so fun, man. I think there's a lot of dissenting opinions. There's so many reasons to like each of these players, which is why it's almost I don't want to say a good position. This is definitely cognitive dissonance talking here, where I'm like, oh, I'm glad we're fourth. Like, of course you'd want to be first. You'd want to be able to make the choice. But these guys are all so good and have so much potential in different ways that I can't argue with a lot of them. Like, I see why people love Peterson. I mean, there's not much besides the cramping thing, whatever you want to buy with the creatine stuff. I mean, listen, I am no medical specialist, but I'm quite familiar with research on creatine, and that is not a known side effect for something that's what's the best known studied supplement for the last 20 years. So maybe he's got something weird that no one's seen before, but I'm not buying the whole thing about it. Like the whole body cramping thing, he's probably got a little bit of maybe PTSD from that event. But yeah, I mean, besides that, it's like, dude, I mean, the guy can guard. He's very, very good on defense. He's not going to be a multi-positional defender for sure. But even you project a guy who could be a true 3-level scorer if he has that athleticism still, if you believe that, which I think most people do. I mean, he's a guy who's going to be able to get in the paint at will. He's going to be an incredible off-ball scorer. I mean, he could be the best 2-guard in the league. Like, you could easily see that. And then you look at a guy like Donovan Mitchell, who we love. We just saw him light the world on fire the other night. You get a guy who could score maybe like that, but then play very good defense on the other end. I mean, that's a top 10 player, hands down.
Yeah, for sure. And I also kind of just love the idea that maybe Debonset could also end up in Utah. That would be obviously... He kind of feels like the Utah guy, you know. He's like the Utah boy. If he was end up with the Jazz, that'd be pretty cool as well.
I think the only team that has some interesting like fit stuff, because I mean, I think the Wizards are smart enough with the way they've been building a team. I think that they've set themselves up to have some very good veterans next year to kind of boost them up and not be
Yeah.
tanking again and be competitive. I don't think they'll care about fit. But the Jazz, though, I mean, the Jazz have young guys that are coming up. They made this move for Jaren Jackson Jr. They very clearly, highly value Lowry Markkanen. They don't just see him as like this guy will see who he is, and they really value Ace Bailey. Um, I almost feel like they're kind of hoping that AJ goes first. You have to take AJ if he drops them. Like
Yeah.
you cannot not have him. Um, we know the owners' connections to BYU. We obviously know Utah's love of AJ already, but that would create some roster issues. And if you're valuing people, these four talents pretty equally, it's like, I mean, fit should never be part of the picture. But if you're really like these two guys are equally talented, it's a little tricky, especially if you really do believe in Ace Bailey.
Yeah. No, that is fair. It's going to be interesting, and like that's why you can somewhat make yourself believe that the rumors that both the Wizards and the Jazz might be willing to listen to offers, you can kind of almost talk yourself into believing that that might actually be true when you kind of look at it that way.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you have to. I think the only teams that they would trade with are with him. So they'd look at the Grizzlies, they'd look at the Bulls, and say, "Hey, do you really want AJ? Do you really want Peterson?" Um, and I think both Grizzlies and Bulls go. Not that bad. not
Yeah.
not as bad as you want. Like, because what are they gonna ask for? They're gonna ask for Modest. They're gonna ask for a future first. From the Grizzlies, they're gonna ask for Coward. They're gonna ask for future first. You know, it's not worth it. I don't think they'll do it
Yeah.
because I think all four of these guys are so good. And you can talk yourself into them being a foundation. And what do you do with foundation? You do the right thing. You continue to stock more young talent along them that can grow beside them, and you worry about fit once those guys have proven that they're like the franchise guy.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously we got the Grizzlies in at 3. And what are your thoughts there? You think that's more or less likely that they trade Ja Morant then?
I don't think they can. I think there's a lot of talk about like does he fit that? I feel like I've said this every time it comes up. It's twofold. I think one, you're not going to get a lot of value for him, so are you just trading him just to trade him? At that point, why? It's like he's not been documented as like a bad teammate. His teammates love him. The city loves him. Like he's very involved in the community there. He's a part of that Grizzlies organization. Yeah, he's had his off-court issues. Fine. He's not been super healthy. Fine. But I mean, he's not going to be the guy when they compete again. He's not going to be their point guard of the future. Maybe he turns things around this year, and like he has like this huge shift in how he plays. He's starting to figure out his three and focusing more on the defensive end, and then he's rehabbed his value, and then you work from there. But why trade him now? What's the point? Like, what you're going to get nothing for him. If anything, you're dumping assets in order to get rid of his contract. So I think a lot of people are talking about it just because like, oh, it's a rebuild. He's not proven that he's going to take you out of getting lottery odds. And with the draft reform too, like you don't need to be at the bottom as well. You could still be a borderline play-in team and still have somewhat decent odds to get there.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think obviously there's kind of rumors that maybe like a team like the Kings would probably be interested
The
in
poor
him
Kings,
just because
man.
they're so
The poor
desperate to not
Kings.
be in the relegation zone there next year. Like that, like a team like that, and like we'll get on to them. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what moves the Grizzlies might make because it's not out of the question. But I do think that I don't think like them getting number 3 really kind of changes it in either direction. It's still kind of a choice. It's kind of up to them. It's not really one that they need to or don't need to do.
To be a Kings fan right now, like you're already just reeling from not winning the lottery, and then you just want to consume some sort of positive news. You want like, who are the Kings gonna pick? Like, what moves can? And then all the news you're gonna see, it's always like, what like terrible player can we dump on the Kings? What trades can we do to make the Kings work? Like, it's depressing, man. I hope that doesn't happen. Ja could have a nice little redemption story alongside a young group here, and I hope that's where this goes, man. I think it would be cool to see these young players grow and for that to happen alongside a veteran point guard that can hopefully regain some of his credibility there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It would be crazy to see like the Grizzlies completely like break down the core of the team that we believe might be that next great young team in the West so quickly. So it would be good to see Jazz stick around there. We obviously already talked about the Bulls. Then the next big story was the Clippers getting up into number 5 with that pick from the Pacers.
On the Clipper side of it, so
It's
they're
huge.
awesome, awesome, man. Like
Yeah.
they've really turned things around from what, December? When did we talk? Late November, where it's like this team is just done. What are they gonna do? Like there will just be the dust will be settling for years, and you fast forward
And we also
six.
thought the Thunder were going to get this. Like this pick are
Yeah.
probably better.
Oh man, just the fast forward, and then to see them now, Kawhi under the silent threat of penalty of fraud, finally playing games, looking incredible. You flip hard and you get a young guard who I think they're in a really interesting position because you look at all these really, really, really talented guards in this draft class. Honestly, and then you look at Garland, you go, hey, I think Garland's probably better than most of these guys. I mean, it's worth a look, and they're going to do that. Maybe they just draft there, but they have a real asset. Look across the league, and hey, who needs their point guard of the future? Because you got a really good opportunity to do that there. They have a chance to trade down if someone has a guy they really want to get. Maybe they stay in the lottery. I think
Yeah.
they probably stay in this draft. They stay in the lottery, but at pick number 5, you could really argue there's a lot of value there if you trade down. So they have so much optionality with that. Is there a guy that you'd want them to take off the top of your head?
There's no one that really jumps out to me. I think that they should go for at 5. I think I'm just interested to see what their plan is. Like, do they plan to keep Kawhi around? Will they look to shop him? I'm wondering what their like plan is for this number 5 pick. I feel like that's still very much up in the air. They could go a lot of different ways with it.
Yeah, yeah. They're obviously going to do their due diligence and scout these guys out. I don't think they take one of these guards. I don't think they go with like an Acuff
Mm.
or a Wagler. But I think interesting, huge swings would be, going for guys like Aments or Mikhail Brown if his physicals check out. But they could take a swing there, or let someone else take the swing. Hey, like you want to swing there? Do you want to sauce us a future first? That's where maybe these deals start flying. But the thing is, they have options. They did not have options 5, 6 months ago. They have options now. They have young players. They got Mathurin. They got Garland. And I mean, how much longer are we going to be calling Mathurin a young player?
Yeah.
We'll give him a couple more years. But exciting times for the Clippers to have something. They have something now to push forward.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, the crazy thing about it all was the Pacers. Was it the GM or the owner coming out and like with that message of apology? And you're kind of just
Yeah.
like, dude, chill. You knew exactly what you were getting into when you made this trade. At the end of the day, you've got a starting level center who's on a great contract, and that's a position you desperately needed to fill. So it's really not the end of the world. I know Pacers fans will say, "Oh, we could have got this guy, we could have got that guy, whatever." I think I really don't think when we're looking back on this in like 5 years, it's going to be like the biggest disaster of all time, like that apology would make it out to be.
Yeah. I think there's so many different ways to look at it. I've heard many different angles. I think one, you look at it from his angle and you think, we definitely have a window to compete next year. I believe that. Cool. So let's just fortify that future right now. Let's get that center, right? Let's get a guy who is going to replace Turner in a different way. He's going to be a better interior defender. I mean, look at the matchups we have here. I mean, you think about um, the Embiids, the Cats, the Durans that you're going to have to deal with, the Mobleys, and Zubac is going to hold up. Like he's has a track record. You know he's going to hold up. Um, you look at it that way, right? And then you think about the risk, the calculated risk you made is like, hey, I won't lose a top 4 pick in a 4 franchise altering player draft with albeit a lot of talent below that, but I don't need a Keaton Wagler. I don't need a point guard of the future. The best players that are 5 through 10 are going to be those kind of guard heavy players. We don't need that. So I'd be willing to lose that for a Zubac. Like if the sacrifice is I get to compete with the for a championship next year with the center that this team needs, to give up a guy that we'd have to develop for the next 3 years just to replace Tyrese Halliburton. No thanks. Then the other angle of it is like, I don't know, man. Like, you is the fifth pick in this loaded draft Ben Matherin worth Zubac? Like, I know that was the risk, but that value is tough because you're still thinking about a team that you have the offseason. You still could have made a move. Like, you could have waited until, the dust has settled from the lottery to have done something here. Could they have still made that trade right now? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and you kind of live in the moment, and you're like, oh, okay, there could be a mistake. At the same time, the pick doesn't convey, and then they're giving up an unprotected pick in 2031. And what if the Pacers are completely dead by then, and they're one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, and like it works out that way. Like it's always tough. It was obviously just a bit dramatic. The tweeting out was obviously just very, very dramatic. The guy knew the risk that he was running, and said,
I respect that. A lot of GMs, well, for a Bulls fan, for a lot of fan bases where their GMs kind of just hide and don't say much and just be like, well, gotta deal with it. Like, that was pretty honest, and he's come out and talked about it on three separate occasions since. He seems very unapologetic about it, to be honest. It was not very much an apology. It was like, hey, sorry, but
yeah, yeah, that's fair. Rounded it out then, obviously two teams that really wanted to be higher, really wanted to be at least, if not at the one, at least in the top three. The Nets and the Kings picking at 6 and 7. Really tough for both of those franchises, but it's going to be really interesting where they both go, because we know that the Nets have a lot of point guards. Are they willing to add Darius Akuff to that, or could he potentially fall to the Kings? I'm really excited about Darius Akuff. I really believe that he could be a player in this league, maybe even an all-star level player. That would be some big news for the Kings fans if he somehow falls to them.
Yeah, the Kings need a guy, man. It doesn't even matter. At this point, it doesn't even matter like how complete of a player they're going to be. I mean, you're just drafting for best talent. I mean, you are through the whole lottery. But it does become a little different with the Nets. I mean, you think about how many guards that they drafted, and they don't have a lot to show for it. And a lot of people saying that, give it time. Like, this is a young team. They're dysfunctional on purpose. It's still too early to say that none of those guys could become good NBA players. It becomes a little more difficult if you draft another one here, and this is kind of the position they're in. And maybe they're another team that says, hey, like, we have too many guards. Like, who needs a guard? Like, Hawks, do you want to trade up? Mavs, you want to trade up? Like, maybe they could look for more of a combo guard later on in the lottery. I think that's what I would be doing. But at least for the Kings, man, they can get one of these guys. One of these guards, I believe. I feel like looking through, the Flemings, the Wogglers, the Acuffs, even starting to scout some of Burries and Brown Jr. Like, there's at least one or two of these guys that's going to be like a multi-time All-Star player. Like, there's a lot of good guard talent there. So don't be too sad. You're not going to get like the guy, but I do have a strong feeling that there's going to be a couple more hits in this lottery, and if they can get value out of it and still draft maybe a little bit later, that would be great.
Yeah, there has to be. I feel like somewhere in like the 7 to like 12 range, there's got to be at least that other guy, that guy that breaks out of this class. I feel like that could definitely happen in this draft year. Obviously, then rounding out the top 10, we got the Hawks, the Mavs, the Bucks. Obviously, solid spot for the Mavs. They get to draft another top 10 player around Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
Hawks, they're in a decent position. Obviously, they probably want it better, but solid position. Then Bucks, they'll take anything they can get.
Yeah, the Mavs could not pull off the Spurs back-to-back lottery. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, with the Spurs luck that they had, I mean, scouting, I think that the scouting aspect here, they got Steph Castle. I think some teams were a lot lower on him than they were. But for them to have gone 3 in a row and got Castle, Wemby, and Harper, like, that's just... When you think about that kind of lottery luck, that's just insane. So imagine if the Mavs had jumped into the top 4. That would have been ridiculous. I'm looking at the Hawks in particular, because, I mean, looking at all these teams that could just reload and come back next year and be even better, more talented, and then add a lottery level talent, like that's a great position for them to be in. I think again they'd probably just stay in and take the best player available, but they have options. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with it.
Yeah, the Hawks are obviously a very interesting team to just watch now this offseason, see what sort of moves they make in terms of like how aggressive they are right from the off. Do they just draft another player here? Do they try and consolidate that pick into something bigger? The Hawks are definitely one of the teams to watch this offseason in the NBA. But I think we got to switch it over and get into some playoff basketball. We will obviously get into much more of the draft as we approach draft day. We'll be looking at doing deep dives into all these young players. But yeah, let's get into the series that are still going on. Do we want to start in Minnesota or do we want to start in the East? What are you thinking?
Let's start in Minnesota, man. Um, let's talk about Wemby. Let's talk about Wemby. Man, what a response! I was talking to a couple people before the game, and I just had a feeling that Wemby was going to really turn up in this game. And the way that he just commanded the floor, he's had moments like that throughout the regular season, but the way that he came out in game 5 last night, that was that 4 minute spell, scoring like 16 points. Like, that's the picture of what his peak will be. And he did it against Gobert. Like Gobert, who's defended him well throughout the series. Julius Randle has used his physicality on him. Like they've done okay to make Wemby uncomfortable at times, but there's a certain level that Wemby will eventually get to where it just doesn't matter. It just does not matter. He will use his height, he'll use his handle to get wherever he wants. And there's a certain switch that flipped throughout this game where he went from knowing he could get whatever bucket he wanted and using his gravity as a shooter and like starting to just move defenses even without the ball in his hands. And then when he had the ball in his hands, he knew when the help was coming, he knew what angle it was coming from, and he started to get that defense in rotation and whipping the ball around. Some of the swing passes he's making, you see an early mastery of the game for this young guy that is just frankly absolutely terrifying. He didn't do it for the entire game, but you saw it. You saw it for 2 out of the 4 stretches where he was in, where it was like, this entire game is his. He made everyone his son. Like, no one had a chance to defend him one-on-one. And then once you started to focus the defense on him, he bent the defense perfectly, and he started to become a masterful playmaker. Some of the reads he was making was incredible. It's scary to see, man.
Yeah, no, like it's just another example of like what it's gonna be like when he like reaches that peak, like when he's consistently averaging like 28, 29 points per game. Like his defense is already like the ceiling that he brings that team to, like just the gravity that he commands on defense is just absolutely insane when he's on the floor. Unless your team is shooting literally lights out from 3-point range, you probably aren't going to win. And when he pairs that with a monster offensive performance like he did last night, it kind of feels like the Spurs are just going to be unbeatable.
Yeah. It feels like the added bonus. It's like when Wemby starts hitting threes, it's like then we're just done. And like he didn't even need that last night. He did not even need that.
Still a crazy game though. The Spurs were up 16. The Wolves pulled it back to 2 points in the second quarter. Then the Spurs were up 18. The Wolves brought it back and tied it, and yet somehow the Spurs still won by 29 points.
Oh yeah, it's always a game of runs, and that's my favorite part about the playoffs, man. It feels like a boxing match. It's that the flurry is going to come. The Wolves, they played great third quarter, and they closed the second half well. But when the Spurs just got things going, when they clamped down on defense, they closed off the paint. They forced a lot of isolation ball. Like there's only so many like step back corner threes that Nas is going to hit. There's only so many tough in traffic fadeaway jumpers that Anthony Edwards is going to hit. They just had no flow to their offense, and
yeah.
I think that's a level that the Spurs can get to when their guards. I mean, it's such a luxury, man, to have Wemby back there. The way that they can put incredible amounts of pressure on the perimeter, they can double where they want, and slip screens aren't going to matter. Back cuts aren't going to matter. There's not a lot of cutting angles when Wemby's just there. And I think the Wolves just have to try. I think they've done a good job in prior games of just attacking the paint no matter what and pretending like, hey, we're going to be able to score Wemby even though you're not. Like they at least need to try that. I think there were times, especially in the first quarters of these games, where they've had incredibly slow starts. It's because they settle for jumpers, and the jumpers that they're settling for, they're all above the break threes. They're lightly contested, but it's just low percentage shots, man, and they just get no flow to them. It's only once Wemby comes off the floor when they start getting into early offense and getting downhill that things start to work out. But once they become a jump shot team, once Julius Randle becomes a jump shooter, there's not a lot going there.
Yeah, no, Randall's offense has definitely been a big issue for the Wolves in this series, and just like obviously Anthony Edwards, I don't want to say that he's not like healthy because like he's had some massive moments, like in the game 4 win, absolutely took over at the start of the fourth quarter, and that like effectively got the Timberwolves that win. But yeah, Randall's offensive output has definitely not been the level that the Wolves need to truly compete with this team, and of course they're definitely missing the shooting and the floor spacing of Dante DiVincenzo as well.
Yeah, it's really tough for Randall, and I think there just needs to be a very clear game plan from Finch. Like, what are we going to do with Randall? And I understand the benching thing would be tough. I don't think we necessarily need to get to that point. But how much more can you alternate him on the floor when Wemby's off? Can you start to use him to attack the paint once Wemby's off the floor a little bit more? Like, what's your goal with Randall when they're putting a small on him? Because I think that the worst possessions that we see with Randall in this series is that he's matched up with Steph Castle, who's just held up fantastic. I mean, it's a big shout out to Steph that he just keeps Randall in front. And if you're going to go through him, you're going to draw a foul. And it's kind of forced Randall to be a little bit uncomfortable and get in positions he doesn't want to be. But they need to find a way to get him in the position to score on those mismatches. Because when he's just hucking from the perimeter, you're not putting him in the position to succeed. It would be awesome to see him be more of a playmaker in the short roll. If you could get him going off mismatches in at least the mid post, there's got to be a way to get him more involved, because I think you're expecting a lot out of him. Like, Randall's a bruiser, and you're not going to bruise through Wemby. He's gonna negate that, and he's not the kind of guy who's going to be able to create on these just elite wing defenders. So he's at a tough position here. I think he's really the key to unlocking this team. We'll see how Finch uses him in Game 6 here. And I think if he has another performance like this, it's going to be really difficult for them to make it to Game 7.
Yeah, for sure. And again, if Wemby puts it together on both ends of the floor, again, I think the Spurs are going to close this out. Obviously, they basically played the majority of the Game 4 without Wemby after he was ejected. I mean, you can make the argument that he's a little bit lucky that he didn't get suspended. It was a pretty aggressive elbow. I don't think it was directed at Naz Reid, but it was a very strong swing of the elbow that caught Naz Reid in the face. I think that's just another example of the standing that Wemby has in the league, and I think that the same treatment would be given to any of the big dogs, like your LeBron Jameses, like your Steph Currys, that sort of way. And obviously the Wolves were able to take advantage without that, despite Cornette coming in and doing a more than amicable job. But I just think if Wemby puts it together in one of the last 2 games, Wemby puts it together on both ends again, the Spurs are closing this out.
Yeah. Any shout-outs that you have for the Spurs?
I mean, honestly, Cornette, I just love everything Cornette does. Like, obviously, he had a great impact in Boston last year, coming off the bench, doing the same thing here, just continuing to just play his game. Obviously, a guy who came into the league undrafted, continues to be a solid, successful role player in the playoffs, and just everything they're getting from their young guys. Like, Dylan Harper continues to have an impact. Even what we're seeing from Carter Bryant, he continues to make little splashes wherever he can. They're just getting so much production from all around the team.
You took my shout out, Carter Bryant, man.
Yeah.
Like, shooting 40% from 3, and the type of shots he's making too. He's not just hanging out in the corner. He's hitting trailer threes above the break. He's relocating. He is very important from the corners to really flatten out their spacing. But the aggression from which he's shooting, the confidence to defend every position, and just he looks totally unfazed by the moment. And that's what's just insane about this team. I think you look at the Wolves and they've got a lot of hard-nosed players. They got guys that are going to step up to the moment, that are going to compete. And then you look at the Spurs, they got so many young guys. And what was the biggest uh, complaint beginning of the season for them? Oh, they're too young. They're not ready for the moment. They're not experienced in the playoffs. So maybe they'll win a round. Dude, these guys are playing like veterans, and I think that's such a testament to Johnson's coaching staff and the type of characters that they've brought into this team. Like these guys, I mean, Dylan Harper just totally unfazed, man. Like he not the best overall like performance in the playoffs, but compared to like what you'd expect from a rookie point guard, it's absolutely insane to watch this guy time in, time out, just make the right plays, make the right reads, get into the paint, like getting offensive rebounds and going up. Like he's done this on multiple occasions where he's just draped in the paint and somehow he sneaks in an offensive rebound. Just doing a lot of, he's playing like the Derek White role in a way, but it's in a supercharged way. And again, like it's so funny to look back and look at the complaints about this team. Hey, they got too many guards. How are they going to all play together? Well, they are playing together. They are synergizing. And yeah, man, it's incredible to see how a young team like this can make it this far. Them, the Spurs. I mean, you even see how the Pacers were last year. Like young teams making it far, kind of really changing the narrative over the last several years that young teams can't really compete in the playoffs.
Yeah, and obviously, like it helps when you have 4 top 5 picks on your roster, no doubt. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think like Spurs culture is a very, very real thing, and I think
We gotta start that. Where's the hashtag Spurs culture? We got Heat culture forever. Where's Spurs culture?
yeah, it's got to be Spurs culture. I think they really do like put their players in the best position to succeed like as quickly as possible. In my opinion, they like had that, and they still have so many other legends still very connected to the franchise. Like Pop is still around, like offering his input there, and I think that's great for all these players. Like the culture of the Spurs is a huge thing, and we're seeing it. We're seeing the evolution of that, and hopefully now in the Western Conference Finals we get to see the modern Bill Russell versus Will Chamberlain in the OKC Thunder against the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm obsessing with Carter Bryant, but this other point, we talked all season about how Harrison Barnes has just been such a delight for this team. He's such a steady presence, spacing the floor, playing great defense. He goes out for a few games in May, and then Carter Bryant's like, yeah, I guess I'll just take your spot. Like, when we've seen Harrison Barnes, it's Carter Bryant's minutes. He supplanted Harrison Barnes again as a rookie, man. A guy who, when he's drafted, was like, oh, he's defensive talent, but I don't think he's ready. Not ready to play. Well, no, this guy's putting up important minutes in playoff series. But you can shout out every player on this team, man. They've done really well. I think it might be the end of the Wolves here. They've put together a great sling of games here, despite how undermanned they feel, which is kind of funny to think about because they're only down Dante DiVincenzo. What's only down is probably an understatement because of what Dante means to this team. I think Mike Conley's actually looked not bad. Like he's had some pretty decent stretches here and there. He's filled in as best as you can imagine. Bones has totally disappeared. Like he just cannot survive in this series. But I think that the gap in talent is a little obvious here in terms of the depth compared to these two teams. I think it's done next game.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, but I obviously just have it always in the back of my mind in the playoffs. Every time we're ready to count the Wolves out, they usually like to throw a wrench into our ideas. I hope so too. But I'm probably with you. I think the Spurs are able to close it out. What about in the Eastern Conference? We're recording here on Wednesday, so night after the Wolves game, the Pistons and Cavs will play Game 5 tonight. 2-2 series. The Cavs continue to be unbeatable at home and can't win on the road. 6-0 at home, 0-5 on the road so far in these playoffs. Just a Donovan Mitchell masterclass on Monday night. 39 points in the second half. The most points in a playoff half. He tied the record there. Just phenomenal from him, and like obviously thank God they got to play back at home because we know James Harden just sucks ass on the road. 9 field goals made on the road, 11 turnovers on the road so far for James Harden, but he really bounced back in the 2 home games. Got to the line really well in game 4, made a few shots, did his playmaking, and obviously in game 3 he like really closed out the Wolves with some huge shot making. But it just feels like the home advantage is going to be what gets the Pistons over the line here.
Isn't that such a crazy tale of two halves?
Oh yeah, it was insane.
The way that the Pistons just totally shut off the paint in the first half. They knew that Mitchell wanted to get going downhill. They took away the middle for him. They forced him to the sidelines. They packed the paint whenever there's a drive downhill. They were daring Dean Wade to shoot. Like that, they just took away any flow from the Cavs offense. And then the second half, the angles that they were finding, the way that they were finding the open man, I think that the fact that they let Donovan Mitchell get going early with just a couple, like you saw it. You saw it. As soon as he got a couple easy lays and then he hit that step back 3, like he just went into flow state. And when you let a scorer like Mitchell get into flow state, it's really tough to stop him. And this is a guy who's being guarded by Asar Thompson. This is a guy who is getting to the paint and having to deal with Jalen Duren and to deal with Paul Reed, guys who have been excellent in the paint. This is a guy who's having to switch on to Cade. And occasionally he'll get a little Duncan Robinson switch here and there, but he's doing this against one of the toughest defenses in the league. Like he just scored 39 on a playoff-ready defense. And this isn't just like Mitchell Robinson going one-on-one. Like you saw so much movement in this offense, like the way that
I like that you have the Knicks on your mind. You keep calling him Mitchell Robinson. That's good to hear from
you. You know what's funny? I had to correct that in my notes like 5 different times, and it keeps messing with me. But the adjustments that they made to get Pistons out of position, the angles at which they were driving from, there's just no adjustment. I'm curious how this happens, but there are multiple possessions where Cade's rotating over to help to prevent Mobley from getting a shot at the rim, to prevent Allen from getting a shot at the rim. And he's just out of position, and then swing, Mitchell's wide open. And the amount of times that they're able to do this was kind of surprising to me. That's how they went on their 21-0 run. And from then on, it was just too difficult to get back from. The Pistons don't have enough offense to keep up when the Cavs are rolling like that. Can they recreate this? I don't know. It's an interesting chess match. It'll be interesting to look at the film again and see what adjustments the Pistons make. Because in that first half, they were just closing everything off. They're getting active hands. They're turning the Cavs over. They looked like 2 entirely different teams.
And the Karis LeVert revenge game was...
Karis, yes. Shout out Karis LeVert.
That was on there in that first half. And then obviously the Donovan Mitchell just made us all forget about that, which obviously was huge to see from his side, and obviously just from the Cavs side. But
yeah, JB just totally threw out the rotation. He was like, all right, I guess we need to score, so Karis get back off the bench. Karis LeVert goes in and scores a contested floater immediately after. Like he became their go-to scorer. It's funny.
Yeah, no, it was impressive. Yeah, like you said, real tale of 2 halves, and obviously hugely important for the Cavs. They're in a position where they're in a win now mode. They made that win now trade at the deadline to get James Harden in. So there's a lot more pressure on them than the Pistons to really go big this year and get the win and get to the conference finals. But obviously their depth is slowly starting to become a bit of an issue. I don't really believe in any of their role players outside of their starters, and we kind of almost saw an example of where there's just that disconnect when they brought in. They benched all their starters late in the fourth and had to bring them all back in because the guys who came in had no interest in being on the floor.
I want to push back on that because I think that what we've seen develop here, at least in this game 4, and coming in from game 3 as well. Number 1, Tobias Harris has had an excellent turnaround after this first series where he shot 17%, less than that from 3, and he has been really confident both attacking from the mid post. He's been really confident just taking people off the dribble. He's been really confident shooting a 3. He's scored how many games in a row? 20 points or more. And then you look at Karis LeVert's performance. You look at Dennis Jenkins creating some offense and Paul Reed being like their just emergency scorer.
Wait, no. You know, I was talking about the Cavs when I said that.
Are you talking about the Cavs? Oh.
Yeah, I was talking about the Cavs.
I'm like, come on, man. The I was going to say, I feel like my biggest note. Okay. Well, all that being said, I will say my biggest note for the Pistons is the fact that their depth has really come around and shown up when that was our biggest question mark. It's like, where's their offense coming from? And I think it was really interesting to see in Game 4 here, the flow felt a lot smoother for Cade. Cade's playing a little bit off. He's a pass away if they need to reverse the ball. But let's let Tobias Harris run some mismatch offense. See if you can poke there. And Cade can kind of space out, relocate, be an off-ball shooter. And if you need an emergency shot, he's kind of there. You don't have to run 1,000 pick and rolls with him and Duren. That was kind of the initial issue coming into the playoffs is Cade's taking a million shots, and then it's like, well, hey, Cade turned over the ball 10 times. Well, he's going to turn over the ball if you have to have him gut into the teeth of the defense every single time. I think their offensive flow has looked a lot better now that you have a little bit of Karis LeVert sprinkled in. You have a little bit of Tobias Harris sprinkled in. The amount of offense they've been able to create on their own. That's been, I think, huge for them to find a bit of balance. But, yeah, on the Cavs side, I agree. There's the depth has been a big question there. You haven't had, like, your Tyson moment. You know, you haven't had Max Strus has been great in spurts. Like he's made some really winning plays. Like he's always going to be doing that. Defense he's had this series has been huge. But someone else needs to step up. You need to have a Mobley game. You need to see him turn up.
His shot still just looks so awful. With the arc on his shot, it just looks absolutely horrific. But I got to obviously shout out in Game 3 that steal that Max Strus had. I never have seen that in an NBA game when Cade Cunningham from the sideline just passed it straight to his hands. I could not believe that I witnessed that. That was absolutely insane. But I think the man who's really having the struggles in these playoffs is not Cade Cunningham. It is Jalen Duren.
Yeah.
Struggled throughout the playoffs. See, this is a man who was averaging 19.5 points, 10.5 boards, shooting 65% from the field during the regular season. He was an all-star. And in this series alone, he is averaging 9.5 points, 7 boards, and shooting just 44% from the field, which is just awful for a guy who's very much a rim guy. He's not like taking jump shots. He's not taking threes. To be shooting that percentage shows kind of the level that he's playing at right now.
I feel like the confidence is gone, man. You saw him be a confident pull-up jump shooter. You saw him get in those spots where he could get to a jump shot and take guys off the dribble. But, you know, in the playoffs, I guess it's a different game. You know, you're facing higher quality of talent. You're facing a team that's not going to let you just get downhill. And they've really keyed in on him. Like, every time Duren gets in the paint, you see him too. It's just automatic. Like they do not let him. No team in the playoffs yet have let him get into a flow, and I think kudos to him. I think this is just a wall he needs to get through. Just looking big picture, he's not looked confident, and he just needs to expand his game. That doesn't mean necessarily creating 3-point shot. I think he needs to polish up, his turnaround jumper. I think he has enough touch there to do it, but he hasn't had the opportunity to do so. And when he's been presented them, he has not cashed in. And you're just not going to score over, the combination of Mobley and Jared Allen right under the rim. Like, these guys have keyed in. The game plan has been take away the paint for Duren. Don't let him get going. There's been no chance for him to be the elite rim runner that he is, because that's just not. They're just going to take that away. And that's the playoffs, man. It's like you have these guys that are elite out at a couple things, and that's Duren earned the right to be an all-star. I think he's earned the right to be a piece of this franchise to compete moving forward. But he's got to expand his game, because if you're just one-dimensional, you're going to take that away.
Yeah, I mean, like, his defense has been there at times throughout the playoffs and in this series, but he's been very susceptible to getting into foul trouble as well, which has obviously hurt the Pistons. Obviously, they got a solid backup in Beef Stew, and Paul Reed continues to just be like do Paul Reed things. Just whenever he comes in, you think, this is like a dud now. He always just comes in and plays his game and does his thing. So he's kind of been he's been getting some extra minutes. I think Duren's played less than 30 in both the games in Cleveland. It's going to be a fascinating matchup now to see has Harden finally got his groove in these playoffs, or is it going to continue to be he goes on the road, he can't do shit, he plays at home, he still has a little bit of juice in him. That's going to be arguably maybe the telling difference in this series.
Shout out Paul Reed, man.
Yeah.
Paul. 2-year, $11 million contract. That's looking like a really, really good deal for a guy who gives you kind of shades of Nas Reed at times.
Yeah, honestly.
Just and another guy who Bickerstaff's like, you know what? Screw this rotation. Reed, get back in there.
Yeah.
Just pull him back in the crowd. The instant activity that he presents, the just a surprising off the dribble capability for him. I'm kind of curious, like what kind of opportunity he needs. Because the cool thing about Nas Reed in Minnesota is that he was kind of, he built from the ground up there. They scouted him, they knew him, and I think they knew kind of the player he could be. Paul Reed hasn't had that opportunity for a team yet. He's on this journeyman kind of trajectory, but is quietly looked at as probably the best backup big outside of guys like Nas Reed. So it's like, hey, where's your opportunity at? Your $5 million contract? Like, I think he could do a lot more.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams will be looking at him this season. I believe he's out of contract this year, right?
Nice, 2 years.
He's 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought this is his second year there. I forgot. I was misremembering that. Yeah, no, that's absolute steal for the Pistons, and obviously it's great to not have to worry about losing him. Maybe they might move on from Beef Stew this offseason if they want to try and be aggressive in making a move. He might have to be the collateral there, but yeah, having that backup of Paul Reed is huge for them.
I mean, it's an absurd trade. This is like 2K level stuff because there's so much that goes into it besides just team balance. But I mean, when you really do look at this roster and the balance that they need more wing scoring, and you just think about the productivity that you get out of your third big and your second big is an all-star kind of one-dimensional big like Duran worth that max level contract when you got a guy like Cade. Like Cade can elevate the type of play from guys like Paul Reed and guys like Beef Stew. Like, do you really need that?
That's fair. That's fair. It's good. I mean, the Pistons are kind of be looking at it, kind of licking their lips in a way. I know they obviously want to win and they want Duran to do his best. They want to win this year. They were the number one seed, but they got to be looking at it like we can maybe get him for a much cheaper deal than maybe it was looking like at the end of the regular season.
Sign and trade, Lakers. The Lakers.
Well, the Lakers would be interested. Yeah, of course the Lakers are going to be sniffing around there, especially with big DeAndre Ayton once again getting benched in a crucial moment for the Lakers, and now he's already out there saying he's going to reject the player option to get a bigger payday. And I'm kind of like, maybe you'll get it for a team that's really desperate, but do you really think you've earned a bigger payday? Because I don't.
Yeah, not to this point. It's always, this is a tough way to kind of figure out not what players are, but what they need to adjust to and think about what they could be. Do we go to 76ers here?
I mean, we could. Obviously, final call on Pistons, Cavs. I'm gonna stick with Pistons getting through on home advantage. I think this could go 7 games though.
I think if we are just gonna track the record of the Cavs, I think they lose in 7.
Yeah, it's got to be the way it goes.
The more important question though is, for the Knicks who talk about their just convincing defeat, just absolute destruction of the Philadelphia 76ers. Who would you rather see in the next round?
I want the Pistons. Give me the smoke. I want the Pistons.
You want the smoke. You want the smoke. You want the smoke. Okay.
Absolutely. It's got to be.
Why?
I just think that the Knicks have to remind everyone that they are the best team in the East, and people are like wanting to say, oh, they got the pass because they didn't have to face the Celtics again this year. We beat the Pistons in the playoffs last year. The Pistons absolutely destroyed us in the regular season, and I think the Knicks need to go and show what's up. Need to go and take on the Pistons, match up to the physicality that the Pistons provide, and go and win this series, because pound for pound the Knicks are a better team. They were just made very uncomfortable by the physicality of the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, but yeah, man, you guys just disrespectfully beat the brakes off of the 76ers, chanting deuce in their own home court. I can't picture a more demoralizing way to lose. I mean, being swept in and of itself is very demoralizing. Losing at home is very demoralizing. Almost approaching giving up the highest amount of points scored in a playoff game was depressing. When the Knicks are very nice, they pulled their starters out, they probably would have beat it. But to do it to the sound of Knicks chants just echoing down, that's terrible, man. It's funny that it was. I wasn't even remembering the last time that this happened, but Embiid before Game 1 was like, "Hey, Philly fans, well, first of all, someone an empty promise. Like, if you need the money, I'll put like, bro, what? Then buy all the tickets. Then you guys buy all the tickets and give it to fans.
Literally.
Be about it. You could do it. I mean, that's like what? How many? Should we do some math here? I can't do the math off the top of my head, but one of those tickets is what, like $5,000 probably. So $5,000, you want to buy like 300 tickets, you can afford that. Probably do that for 2 games. You were only going to be there for 2 games anyway.
Yeah, I know. It is really crazy that just like the way that 76ers fan. I know there is like a lot of Knicks fans probably in Philly, and obviously it's such a short journey to get there to go to games, but like it just feels insane that every time that the Knicks face against the 76ers in the playoffs, the Knicks have all home games. Like it is truly a bizarre situation, and it's really gotta suck for Philadelphia. But obviously, I think this sweep, as much as I will praise the Knicks for it, and I will get into my praise for the Knicks, don't you worry. This is just another example, I think, of just how much the Celtics lost that first round series, every bit as much as the 76ers won it, because it was kind of mismanagement from the Celtics. They tried to play that same way as they've done the last 2-3 years under Joe Mazzulla. That's had a lot of success with them. They tried to just shoot the ball. We're going to shoot so many threes that you're not going to be able to touch us. But they just don't have the players to do that anymore. And that's what ultimately cost them this series. There was no plan B. They had no plan B if their shot wasn't falling. And the 76ers took full advantage. And then they go up and face a Knicks team where the Knicks have their plan A, they have their plan B. They have this new thing where Kat turns into Nikola Jokic. Like, they just way too much for them.
Ronan Gaine taking the opportunity to beat the Celtics while they're down. I hope you remember this next year. But I think from the Knicks angle, it's pretty easy to see that this is such a breath of fresh air compared to last year, where, like you're talking about, there's more optionality. This is not just Brunson against the world, late shot clock heroics, 24 seconds in, where are we going with this shot? Oh, there's another missed 3, there's another missed shot, there's one pass here. Like, the amount of passing happening here, the way that they've just implemented flex offense here and turned Cat into a primary playmaker. I mean, we've been asking for this for 4 years? Like, I think the thing is about Cat, when you look at some of the crazy passes he tries to make, and you're kind of like, is he really a really gifted passer? He's kind of turnover prone. I think you give him the opportunity to be a consistent focal point of the offense as a hub, as a passer. You empower him. It's genius, man. It's awesome to see it come to fruition, because he's always had the reads. Like, I think he's more gifted than people give him credit for trying advanced passes, for really being able to sneak in passes where you don't expect it, especially when you guys have guys making back cuts, kind of tough angles there. When you have a 7-footer who can make those passes, it just opens up so much. And Brunson really can't. I mean, a lot of people complain about Brunson not being a very, gifted playmaker for others at times. Like, when he's got his head going downhill, he's looking to shoot. If it's not there, he's kicking it out. There's not like this Luka Doncic level, Cade Cunningham level, LaMelo level of playmaking that he has. But the dude's like barely 6 feet tall. Like, he's not seeing over that. The fact that he's making those shots to begin with is insane. We have a guy at 7 feet like Cat who can really see over the defense. Like, it's given them so much more options. And Brunson, he looks fresh. It makes the job so much easier for Brunson to close things out in the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the fourth quarters, the amount of fourth quarters in these playoffs that the Knicks have been able to sit their starters. Like, they're in a great position in terms of like rest wise, and obviously this is what we were asking for all year long. It wasn't about Cat not getting enough chances or shots. It was just about Cat not feeling like a part of the offense. He wasn't getting enough touches, and now we're finally seeing him get the touches that the quality of player he is that he deserves, and he's taken full advantage. And obviously I think he's put up at least 6 assists in the last like 5 games. Maybe it's been on the whole win streak since that game 4 against the Atlanta Hawks, but he's just been on an absolute roll. And Mikhail, he's back doing his thing as well, which is obviously great to see. I don't hear anyone talking about the picks now that Mikhail's actually doing his thing. I don't hear anyone giving out about all the picks that they gave up for this guy. Yeah, Mikhail Bridges, he's the 4th option on this team. He's going to have moments where he's not the guy, but it's always going to come back around, and he's always going to play that level of defense, and most importantly, he's always going to be available, and you have to put a lot of value in that, and it's been great to see. But yeah, the fact that we lost OG, please God, let it only actually be day to day, and hopefully he's back for the Eastern Conference Finals, because we are going to need him. But the fact that we lost OG and still just absolutely dominated Philly is just a sign of how much better things are now with the fact that we've got these other guys who can fill in for our starters. When last year it really felt like if one of our starters wasn't clicking, we were dead.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful game when you have these guys in the positions that make them just totally maximize. You look at the height of Mikal Bridges. It wasn't Nets Mikal Bridges. It was Suns Mikal Bridges. And it was next to a true point. And it was next to a guy that was going to find him on those cuts. It was with a guy who was going to really maximize his ability as a slasher. And you can do that now. You do that with Cat at the post. And OG as well. Like, you've really maximized OG's off-ball ability as well. And I think this team has really found something. And the question's going to be, what do you do when you face a defense that's adjusted to that? You're going to see defenses react. What's the next step going to be? So curious to see where this goes. I think the biggest thing for me besides Cat is the depth too. Like, you have Deuce looking good. No questions about that injury. You know what you're going to get from Alvarado when he comes off the bench as well. And what an absolute blessing it's been to see Jordan Clarkson just reinvent himself.
Yeah.
Not the chucker that we knew. Not just the microwave 3-point shooter, but the gritty, get on the ground, hunt for boards, play feisty defense, trap
surprisingly
at half
amount
court.
of offensive boards. It's been crazy.
Oh my God. And to see that from Shamet as well, like, he looks fresh. The 3-point shooting you're always going to get from him, but the defensive effort you've seen from him and Clarkson, it's the level of defense that we thought this Knicks team could get to. You know, they can throw out a ton of guards that are going to give you a lot of pressure. You know what you're getting from Mitchell Robinson. Finally, I can say that accurately. This team's peaking right now. They're peaking at the right moment. This feels like the best case scenario for how they've played ever since just a miserable start against the Hawks, where all the questions are starting to flood back in. So for them to just shut the door on that narrative and go on a historic 10-point or 10-game run here, they've now beat the Warriors record of point differential, which was previously at 176. Point differential in the first 10 games is the highest in league history. It's 194. And it shows in the court, man. They're just bludgeoning the opposition.
That shot is here. That shot is finally falling, and that's what always was going to make the difference for this Knicks team. But I've said it all year. The Knicks were built for the playoffs. It was always about the playoffs. They're in the Eastern Conference. They know the regular season is about figuring things out. And Mike Brown took many opportunities to figure out what was going to be best for them moving into the playoffs. And that's just why I could not believe everyone picked the 76ers to win this series. And everyone is like, the Knicks don't have an answer to Tyrese Maxey. And I'm like, and the 76ers have an answer to Jalen Brunson, who outperformed Maxey in the series a couple of years ago. And then look at what Tyrese Maxey did in this series. 18 points per game, 5 assists per game. He only shot above 40% in one of the 4 games, and he was 3 of 19 for the series. And then Jalen Brunson, what did he do? 29 points per game, 6 assists, 51% from the field, 45% from 3. Yeah, Jalen Brunson is a better player than Tyrese Maxey, and it's going to be the staple now. CC Sabathia, I don't know if he was the first person to say this or it just stemmed from him, but Everyone is better than Jalen Brunson until they're asked to be better than Jalen Brunson, and that's just it's a fact. It's real.
I think that Maxey felt a little underused at times. I think that there's a lot of times where we're trying to emphasize Embiid's game, and Maxey doesn't touch the ball for like 2 minutes at a time, especially when late in the game. I am a little curious. We can get into the firing of Morey, but Nurse staying on. I think he's a great coach. He's got playoff pedigree. He's proven track record. The team is bought in, but what kind of changes does this team need to have? You saw the potential with the amount of flow that they can get into, alternating between the speeds of VJ and Maxi, but you saw at times that there wasn't optionality. You can kind of game them out, force Embiid to be a jump shooter, and if Embiid's not healthy, which you saw he wasn't fully himself, holding that hip every time he hit the floor. He was not getting lift on his jumpers. A lot of those mid rangers just not respected because he's hitting the front of the rim on a lot of them. Where can this team go with Embiid still on the roster? And is Nick Nurse that guy? That's a big question this offseason.
It's just impossible to know where they can go. You're kind of just like they're kind of just like they're stuck waiting it out. I mean, Embiid is under contract till 2029, and George on the contract until 2028, I believe. And like it just kind of feels like they're just gonna have to wait it out because obviously we know the future is Tyrese Maxey and BJ Edgecombe, but as long as Embiid and George are on the roster, you have to feature them highly because they're getting paid so much money, and it doesn't make any sense to not do it.
Yeah, Paul George can't be this bad.
Yeah,
He can't. That I think that's a very underdiscussed point of this series is that he just did not show up. Just plain and simple. There isn't
and I
a
can
lot.
feel it too. I like some of my friends at work are big Knicks fans texted me after that first quarter in Game 3, and they're like, "Oh shit, it's playoff P," and I was like, "I don't give a shit what he's doing in the first quarter. Talk to me in the second half. Playoff P will be long gone by then," and that's literally exactly what happened. I know a lot of Knicks fans were scared watching that first quarter of the Game 3, and it was like it was always going to be this way. Philly were always going to come out hot. The Knicks just had to limit the damage that they took in that first quarter. Yeah. They did that, and then they completely flipped the game from the second quarter onwards, and then obviously completely dematerialized them in Game 4. The 76ers are just... They've taken too many swings, they've just taken too many blows, and now they're just kind of in a rut. And that is ultimately why Daryl Morey has been dismissed. Not to say that it's all his fault, not to say that there was better decisions that could have been made, but like they're just stuck in this rut. They still haven't got out past the second round, and they're in this rut. And you make the argument that he's the reason that they're in this rut.
Yeah, he had a lot of chances and so many opportunities. I sent you the tweet earlier because I think we had an initial conversation about him getting fired. It felt so soon, just like it felt immediate. It almost felt premeditated in a way that, hey, this is the last chance. But I forgot that he was I don't think he picked Simmons.
No. He only got there in 2020. He only got there in 2020.
But this is just the amount of misfortune over the years. Fultz and Simmons, over Tatum and Brown. Didn't get any value for Jahlil Okafor. Shamet was traded for Tobias, and then Butler walked for Tobias. They extended Tobias for 5 years, over 180. Then they had the Al Horford experiment alongside Ben and Embiid. Traded Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith. Who? I don't even think he played. 2 second-round pick tampering for PJ Tucker and Daniel House just to get the Rockets group back together. Did nothing with Harden. I lost Isaiah Joe for Dedmon and the most recent trade, McCain, for a 22nd pick, which I think a lot of people saw that as a to duck some tax. But man, and then you think about the some of the little ones like Champagny getting cut and getting McClung in there instead. A lot of misses on the periphery. It's hard to like look at that whole picture and not feel like this team probably had the most opportunities to build a championship roster out of any team in the league throughout this whole process, and then transferring over to the Morey days. But man, it's tough as a 76ers fan to look at that and think about all the what ifs.
Yeah, and it's just tough that like Embiid is just so incredibly talented that like they had to like keep extending him. They had to keep him around because like you just like the possibility of just how good he is when he is healthy. You have to buy into that. It doesn't make any sense to lose him for nothing or to try and trade him because you're just never going to get the value back. And that's obviously the biggest hindrance and what's like really hurt them the most over the past 8-10 years.
I mean, that you can't be too sad for them. They got two very real cornerstones.
Yeah.
VJ. I mean, what you can walk away from this playoff series is that VJ is a star. I mean, just point blank period. He'll elevate his game in the playoffs. You saw that defense translate into a playoff scenario. You saw that shooting translate in a playoff scenario. He's only going to get better from range. And him and Maxey are going to be your backcourt of the future for years.
Yeah, and absolutely. They have that on lock, which is obviously great, and it's just going to be interesting to see if there's any way to escape the doldrums of Paul George and Joel Embiid early that makes enough sense to actually do it. But like you mentioned about Morey, it did feel like there was a double axe coming, that it could have easily been both Morey and Nurse. It is a little bit surprising that it was just Morey and not Nurse, but Nurse is definitely going to be under pressure to deliver right from the off next year for sure. Before we close it out and talk a little bit about OKC and the Lakers, I just need to shout out some Jalen Brunson. I know I talked about him a little bit, but I didn't realize just how dominant that he's been since he moving to New York. And obviously on social media, we're seeing everywhere all the video compilations of everyone like doubting what Jalen Brunson was going to bring to New York and this and that. But he really has been unbelievable since joining the Knicks. This is his fourth year with the team, fourth straight season winning a playoff series, second straight going to the Eastern Conference Finals. In terms of overall playoff points since Jalen Brunson joined the New York Knicks, he is first. In terms of assists in the playoffs since he joined the Knicks, he is second. And in terms of wins, he is third. He has been absolutely unbelievable for New York since joining them. And in terms of Knicks all time, he's now first in 30-point playoff games for the Knicks, first in 25-5 games for the Knicks, and third all time in assists. So people can maybe talk about like his playmakers out there. You can say this and that. But Jalen Brunson is an absolute superstar and right up there in terms of the greatest free agent signings that we've ever seen.
Period. Not the guy. I think it's funny to look back and to think about the offseason. I want to say it was the LeBron free agency period where he could have went to the Knicks.
Yeah.
And he swung, he missed. You didn't get KD. Didn't get LeBron. There's some talk about maybe trading for Kawhi, just like big fish hunting. And Brunson felt like a consolation prize. I think I got a good laugh out of what kind of nepotism was going on there, with his dad being involved and him being like a local guy, and the GM being at his family cookouts growing up. And he's just been the hero that they need him to be. I think it's been a unbelievable run. It doesn't matter if they win a finals run. I think they've created a team that is finally showing what they can be, and who knows how many more years they have in them. Who knows where they go, if they make it to the finals, if they can really compete with the Thunder. That's a conversation coming soon, I think. But Brunson has been the guy that you guys have been looking for a decade, man. He's really proved it.
Yeah, and you talk about like his history and what could have been, and like just thank the good Lord we did not get the number one pick back in 2019, and we did not get Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. If the Zion, Kevin Durant, Irving, who knows where the hell the Knicks would be right now. It would not be in a good place. So just thank God for that. There's always a silver lining when things like this don't go your way. But yeah, let's go Knicks. Excited for the next round, and hopefully this is the year that we finally get back to those NBA finals. But speaking of NBA finals and a team that I think everyone believes will be there and will likely be winning it again, let's finish out the show with some Oklahoma City Thunder talk. Of course, they swept the Lakers. And at the end of the day, the Oklahoma City Thunder are just better at every single thing that leads to winning than the Lakers are, and that was proven over the 4 games.
Dude, I think this is just totally going for granted how good the Thunder have been, man.
Yeah.
Totally taken for granted. It feels like a foregone conclusion. They're just going to destroy every team. Yes, the Lakers had their own blemishes for sure. Yes, the Suns are undermanned, but the casual nature of their dominance is pretty funny at this point.
Yeah.
Do we talk first about AJ and AJ Mitchell? All the Mitchells it's going to be impossible for me to get to this without screwing up someone's name again. But let's just go with AJ. My brain will do well with that. AJ Mitchell, I mean, in this regular season, it's been great. And I feel like there's so many guys who just kind of pop out throughout the regular season on these playoff teams. Like, oh, what is that going to look like in the playoffs? Well, we're seeing it. And he looks better. Like, he just looks poised. He's still getting downhill when he wants to. He's still hitting timely shots. Just the reactions you see from Shea on the sideline as he's breaking down defenses at will is pretty funny. And it's not crazy to look at AJ Mitchell and be like, you have a third offensive star that can create offense whenever you need it. And what an absolute surprise, blessing, whatever you want to call it, for a team that's already so stacked with talent. You know, I think the biggest critiques of this team over the last couple of years is, hey, if Shea's not got it going, if he's off the floor, and you're not creating offense with all your crazy turnovers, where's offense coming from? Oh, if Jalen Williams doesn't have it going, is it all going to be on Shea? Well, here's AJ Mitchell, just creating offense when he wants, looking like Shea Light at times. Like, what have you thought about his performance so far?
Just fantastic. Like, we talked about it when Jalen Williams went down, and we were like, I was very worried about them not having that other 20-point per game scorer alongside Shea. And then, there you go, AJ Mitchell goes into that Lakers series, 22.5 points per game, 6 assists, 2 steals, shooting 56% from the field. Obviously, that 3-point shot's not really there, but he's just getting downhill at will, and obviously it's going to be easier against the Lakers team than it will be when they go up against the Spurs. But the fact that he's just like filled into that Jalen Williams spot effectively, just like so seamlessly, it's just so huge, and just another testament of just like how stacked the OKC Thunder are. Like, we talk about the talent that they've accumulated, and he's just another example of him popping off. And then you see like the trade for McCain, like what he's doing, like the impact that he's having. I feel like he didn't miss a shot in that series against LA. Like, they're just an absolutely phenomenal basketball team.
Yeah, it's funny when you compare both these guys, AJ Mitchell and Jalen Williams. I know we mentioned it. It's like, you gotta consolidate eventually. You got a lot of talent on this team. How are you going to pay everybody? And the argument for it is, hey, they clearly know how to evaluate talent. They know how to get guys in here. Everything's built around Shea. And I think you got a game breaker and Chet and the way that he's translated, and just quietly. No one's talking about Chet's jump this year. Like, been a much more reliable shooter, and still is just game changing. You talk about Wemby, you got to talk about Chet and how he is just getting guys away from the rim. Like, people aren't looking at the rim at times.
Yeah.
But you compare it to AJ and Jalen Williams in their first stretch of games. This is 8 games for Mitchell, 10 games for Williams. Williams averaged 10 more minutes per game in his first run in the playoffs. They both average the same amount of points, and they're, in terms of assists per game, 4.5 for AJ compared to 5.4 for Jalen. Almost same amount of steals. AJ shot better from the field, shot a little bit worse from 3, but in terms of the turnovers, he's had half the amount of turnovers that Williams had. I mean, this guy is just upping his production. Went from nearly 14 points per game in the regular season, now to 18.8. Yes, we'll see what it looks like against the Spurs. A little bit softer perimeter defense from the Lakers, but that's Marcus Smart. I mean, he put Marcus Smart on the ground. Like, he broke Marcus Smart's ankles. A guy who we really celebrated having a big resurgence this playoffs and his play. It's going to be interesting for team building. A lot of, we talk about the Dern performances. We talk about these young guys in these teams who have to make big decisions moving forward. AJ Mitchell possibly being another source of star offense next to Shea has to be something they consider. It's a luxury, but could that be something that they look to in the future if the books get kind of tight?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely it's a good problem for them to have, and it's going to be interesting to see what sort of decisions that they make moving forward. It was obviously tough to watch the Lakers go down like that, but like I said it from the start, I didn't really see them having any hope against this Thunder team, and we saw it so often. It was pretty much tight for the first half, and then OKC just absolutely upended them in the second half. That pretty much happened in every game. Obviously, the game 4 was closer. You think about that LeBron shot 4 or 5 years ago. Ain't no way in hell LeBron misses that shot. I know that for sure. But just doesn't have. There's just those sort of moments where you see Father Time winning, and obviously he's still putting up a better fight than anyone ever has or probably ever will. But like, it's just those little moments, those little like jumpers, those little moments around the rim where they're just not going down like they used to pretty much go down without any sort of doubt. Still did his thing. 23, 6 and 6, shooting 50% from the field, 36% from deep. Like, that is absolutely phenomenal production from a guy at 41 years old when he's still arguably the lead guy in the team because Doncic was out. Like, he really did his thing. It was just tough that they couldn't at least get like one win on the board against us Thunder.
Still in love with the process, and that's kind of his way of saying I'm not retiring yet. He's still got a place in this league on good teams. It's cool to see.
Thunder moving forward. What are we thinking? Like, it's going to be so interesting because I think the playoffs have shown that there is just such a gulf between the regular season and the postseason. It's going to be really interesting to see. I think we both expect it to be the Spurs. How much can the Spurs continue to be that irritant that they were in the regular season to the OKC Thunder?
You just told me not to count out the Wolves, man.
I did, but I think if we're being realistic.
If we're being realistic, and hopefully we'll have a chance to get more in depth on the type of matchups and what we could see these teams kind of poke at and try to take advantage of in their upcoming series, if that's the matchup. I think just a 1,000-foot view, we saw the Spurs be just their nemesis, the perfect foil. And 10,000-foot view, how cool is it that this is the era that we're in now? Because a lot of the narrative early on was about the team building for the Spurs was, hey, maybe kind of wait for the future. Maybe you should really plan for 4 years from now, 3 years from now, when the Thunder maybe have kind of jettisoned some of their star guys. They can't afford it. Maybe they're kind of over their championship run. Let the Thunder take its course and then take over. And they're here now. And I think you look at these two teams, it's tough to say how much of that early season, regular season success against them, if that will take over, because this is a brand new season. Playoffs is totally different. We've seen both these teams be competitive in their own ways, and I don't think the Thunder have had that same level of competition. They haven't needed to take it to that next level, but I also have no question that they could. It's honestly going to come down to guard production from the Spurs for me, just thinking about it right off the bat, because that was the thing that really allowed the Spurs to take over those games, is the fact that they had guys who could create from the perimeter and get downhill and get OKC in rotation in the way that they typically don't have to face. And I don't see that changing, man. I mean, the perimeter defense from the Wolves have been good. They're not a turnstile team in the same way the Lakers are. So we know that the Thunder will have to adjust to a much more aggressive team and a much scarier defense as well. They're facing, not a whole lot.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be crazy to see, and let's see what OKC can do. How close can they get to? Obviously, against the Lakers, the points off turnover was, I don't know what the final tally was. It felt like it was like 200 to like 20 or something. That's how it felt like in certain moments in that series. Like, can they do that to the same extent against the Spurs? Obviously, it's going to be harder with that rim protection that Wemby provides. It's going to be interesting. I'm obviously super excited to see that Wemby-Chet battle over a 7-game series. I'm still feeling that the Thunder are going to have enough to get past the Spurs this year, but if Wemby can pair 5 games where he's putting up the sort of performance he did last night on both ends of the floor, that's when he really starts to get interesting.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a perfect match between him and Chet. That the big battle will be huge, and his court vision will have to remain elite. If he can continue playmaking the way he has, that'll be a huge thing to monitor moving forward.
And obviously, nice that they'll announce. I believe they'll announce MVP during the series between the OKC and the Spurs. It's kind of a nice way to do that.
Well,
yeah.
I think we know who's going to win it,
and rightfully so. But we don't need to get into that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to just about do it. Knicks and OKC sit and wait for their opponents in the conference finals. Pistons, Cavs likely to go to distance. Spurs, Wolves. I hope it goes to distance, but I think the Spurs might just have a little bit too much. We'll get into previewing the next round as soon as we know the matchups. But for now, that's going to do it. Chris, thanks so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for sticking with us. Remember, we're everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.